6:44. Good chance that since today is 420 and there's this huge event downtown today at Sunset Beach, that maybe at dinner tonight around the family dinner table, the conversation might come up about marijuana use. Dr. Shimi Kang joining us again. Thank you for coming in. How do we talk to our kids about marijuana? Let's perhaps start with the appropriate age for this conversation.
Yeah, great questions. Talk early, talk frequently, talk in different ways. So we know that in BC, the average age of first use of marijuana is around 13. So you want to start really early. I say for young kids, as soon as they're communicating, talk to them about a general message to respect your body, and that whatever you put in your body can affect you and your mind, whether that's sugar or junk food or nicotine or alcohol or marijuana. As they get older, they're going to have specific questions about smoking, drinking, and marijuana. And so then you can kind of respond in that way. But definitely by the age of 9 or 10, you want to have had the marijuana conversation.
And how do you broach the conversation? Let's say they're not bringing it up at all. How do you start tiptoeing into it?
So great is what we call an open-ended, curious question. So just ask them, maybe like, oh, today's this event called 420. Do you have any questions about it? Do you have any questions about marijuana? If your child says no, then I think that's enough at that time. You can maybe say, when you do, let me know, because I'm here to talk to you about it. Give them that signal. And if they do have questions, then answer them the best that you can.
And whether or not your child is aware, what about parents who are watching this morning who are themselves cannabis users or perhaps tried it once when they were young? Does that change the way the conversation goes?
Yes, I think we want to approach it very similar to, let's say, alcohol. 80% of Canadians drink alcohol. Most have no problems with it. Some fall into difficulty in terms of problems drinking and driving and those types of things. And some actually lives are devastated by alcohol. It's the same thing with cannabis. So there will be regular users. There will be those who get into trouble for short periods of time. And there are those who will get addicted. Slightly different, though, is the medicinal use of marijuana. And that's what we have to make sure we remove the stigma from. Things like using it for pain or epilepsy. So explaining that to kids, that there is a prescription and medical indication as well.
Do you think it's appropriate to straight out ask your teenager if they themselves have tried marijuana?
I would like to think that before that question, you've talked a lot about it. And then, yes, of course, I think that I would like to think that you could ask, are you considering trying it? So you're being proactive. And yeah, for sure. And what we want to do is that collaborative, but being an authority. Remembering you're not the friend, you are the moral guidance, you're the authority, and give some really clear guidelines. If you don't believe marijuana is good for them, make sure they know that. If you think they should try it after 25 when their brain is fully matured, which is what I kind of advocate for, then say that. If you think that they should do it after 19 when it's legal. So the impact on the young developing brain is different, and young people are using marijuana more frequently and at higher doses than in the past. So just because you used it, we have to put that in context.
You know, I'm coming up with this, maybe it's from the movies, of this scene of a teenager coming home from a house party and the parents noticing the red eyes.
Yeah.
How far into a conversation do you go if you notice your child has been using marijuana?
So in that instance, they may be intoxicated, they may be high, and so that's not the best time. You want to make sure they're safe, probably give them some water, something to eat, put them to bed, and really approach it the next day. The next day they could be in withdrawal. We know marijuana can cause that, and the opposite is the opposite of the high. So they may actually not be hungry. Instead of being stoned, they may be agitated. So maybe even wait a little bit longer. And then when their mind is in the right state, then that's when to approach it. And again, ask them what their reasons, what their rationale is, but give them a clear guideline. My guideline is delay as long as you can. If you're going to use it safely, know your source, make sure you're not alone. There can be adverse reactions, things like panic attacks, psychosis, hallucinations. We see that. Don't use chronically, like heavy use every day. That is associated with things like depression, amotivation, psychosis. And if you know someone who's using medically, don't judge them, because that's very different than the recreational user.
All the talk about the stigma, definitely part of the conversation. Thank you so much, Dr. Shimi Kang.